And what about you? And welcome back to the bench. And this one here, this bench test one, is going to be diesel fuel injectors. All different types, a few different makes and models there. So we've one of that kind, two there, and four of those the same. So we're going to have a wee look to see if we can make them do anything. Sticking a few volts in them, do a few Megger tests, look at a few specs, and you never know, we might get something out of it, both you and me. Right, so we have three over here which are different from these four. These four are all the same. These four are Bosch injectors, and these are out of a Vauxhall 1.9, the DTH engine, I think it was out of. They're in other cars that use that same engine. It's basically a Fiat engine with this type, but the main thing is this is a solenoid. This is a solenoid common rail injector. These are all common rail injectors. This is a solenoid operated one. This is a Denso. Let me see. You can get it up on the screen there for you. That is a Denso, and that there. Those two there actually are both out of they come out of a Toyota RAV4, but it's more commonly found in a Lexus IS220, that type with I think it's an FHV engine 2.2. So that's what they're out of. They are Piezo electric. So we're following on from our previous video whenever we're looking at Piezo electric effects and what it is, how it works and stuff like that. We're maybe going to try and actuate a few of these here. Finally, this one here is a Siemens video, although it says Continental on it. Don't know if it'll come up in the camera there or not. Nope, it won't. So anyway, it's a Siemens injector basically, and that is a Piezo actuated injector as well. So these Piezo injectors, these will have multiple fueling events, very delicately controlled, and by the injector driver and the ECU. So these can be very intolerant of any issues, any contamination, any clearances and stuff like that. So you'll have a post injection, a main injection, maybe an afterwards injection. There's multiple injection events. These do the same now. These have multiple injection events as well, but these are regarded as far more accurate, and these are getting more common. And there's a few vids on the YouTube there of boys doing different sorts of tests for these things, quick and easy tests. They all work fairly high voltage. These here can be up to 250 volts. They operate these things. So the boys test them there about 100 volts, 250 volts, something like that. So you need something that will put out that kind of voltage. These here, there's a solenoid. So all that is a coil in there. All that is a winding in there. So maybe we'll take one or two of them apart here for a moment. Right, here's one here. I've loosened it off. These are pretty tight. As you can see, the marks where I've had it in the bench there, or in the vise, I mean. So that there screws off, and the spring falls out. There's loads of tiny wee springs and wee clips and things like that in that. So that's completely separate from that. So that's your solenoid coil. Now what happens here is that coil gets energized. Initial voltage of about 85 volts. So if you're going to scope this, you need to make sure your scope is set about 100 volts or thereabouts, and that'll be the initial opening time. So what happens here is that solenoid becomes energized, and it pulls this plunger up. So the high pressure is on this constantly, but the plunger is down, and what that does is pull it up the way. A lot of people think it pushes it down. It doesn't. It pushes it up. So, but these are quite easily tested because this is purely a coil. I tested electrically. I mean, all this testing is electrical. And a wee disclaimer before we continue with this video. I don't recommend doing any of these tests that I'm going to show you here today. These are all scrap. All these injectors here are all scrap. So they're all going to go in the bin. I have them kicking about because I maybe thought they're using for parts or something, but they're just no good for anything really. So yeah, what we can do with this solenoid is we can just simply test this coil. So we'll just talk about a few specs and bits and pieces. Right, with one of those Bosch ones in the vise, that's the solenoid one, and it ohms out at 0.3 ohms, which is very little. The spec is 0.4 to 0.8, and that's how you know the difference. Now, there's some of these injectors, and sometimes it's hard to tell whether it's a solenoid one or a piezo one. Some of them are easy to tell, but I know there's some of these caps are very similar. I think there's two Siemens ones are virtually identical visually, and one's a piezo and the other one is a solenoid type. This one here is a piezo, as I said earlier, but there's one with that's in these Toyotas, and it just goes out like that, and I think that's a solenoid one. I think that is a solenoid one, not 100%, but there we go. The other thing is, and these Denso ones, I can't get any specs on them at all. So what these are measuring out at, I don't know whether it's correct or not. We'll have specs for a Bosch piezo, but I haven't got one of them here. But I've seen a lot of guys, and they're using the Bosch specifications and the Bosch tests for this Siemens Video or Continental. So the Denso and the Siemens are completely different, and these are solenoid, so they're just completely different again. So we're getting 0.4 of an ohm on that solenoid of the one that's in the bench. So I'm just going to stick these two in another one here. Polarity is irrelevant here because it's just a coil. There's no nothing else special about it. So they're all testing about the same. I've tested all these. They're all about 0.4 of an ohm. So if you get one of these bad boys, for example, and a piezo, the specs on a piezo across the terminals is in K ohm. So now that's a failed injector. That's no good. That's showing 15 kilo ohms. So there is actually available on the net a complete guide to testing Bosch piezo injectors, and it shows you using that device there. Now you'll probably see a few other videos, guys using a device very similar to that, but it's made by Megger. That's just Bosch's one. That's identical, and what they do is they put 100 volts through it, and the limit value is 170 k ohm. So what happens is, if that's lower than the 170, that 100 volts will just collapse. So there's massive voltage drop, and they're actually looking at the voltage. If it goes below 100 volts, it's condemned right away. The problem with doing just an ordinary resistance test, like what I'm doing here, this ordinary resistance test, that could read 170 kilo ohms across the terminals now, and it still wouldn't be any good. The reason why they're putting the 100 volts through it is they're actually actuating it. They're actually exciting the piezo crystal. So well, barely exciting it. You would need to up the voltage a bit more to make it really go. So the insulation test is the kilo ohms test is valid enough if you find one that is low. So that's condemned right away. We know that's bad. But if it's okay, or if it reads okay, it doesn't necessarily mean to say the injector's okay. So it's one of those tests that if it shows bad right away, great, that's fine. You've found your problem. But if it shows good, it doesn't mean to say that it actually is okay. So without labouring that on a wee bit, we'll just go back to this. There's a few wee things I'll maybe mention in this test. So there's it going 150 kilo ohms. I'm going to bring that in the shot for you. 150 kilo ohms to 210, and that's going across the discharge resistor. And then the other test that you'd want to be doing is basically from pin to body. So you can have a short to the body. So you just Megger the body, and that should be really open circuit, greater than 10 meg ohms there. So that's why you may be seeing guys using this type of meter here. Now there's another wee thing I'll maybe note is it shows here on this it's selected for DAR. So I'll just explain what that is very briefly. Okay, DAR is dielectric absorption ratio, and it's basically a ratio of two time tests, and you get a ratio scale out of it by that calculation. So what that DAR thing is, it's just a time test. So they're holding it from 30 seconds to 1 minute, and then do another test. There's another selection on the meter there, those Megger meters, and it's a PI, polarization index, and that's just a different duration. So in case you're wondering what that is, you might see people doing that in other videos, selecting it for DAR and wondering what that actually means. So it's just the amount of time that they hold it on for. So anyway, we're going to do a wee bit of mucking about here and energize a few of these. And as I said earlier on, big disclaimer here, don't recommend this. Don't do this on your injectors on the car, what I'm going to do here. I'm going to basically probably destroy these injectors. So they're already destroyed anyway, they don't work. We know that one there, but I'm going to see if I can get anything at all out of this Piezo by putting it on the mixing. And our friend, our other little friend as well, the one that we described before, the first look sensor. So another wee thing here I want to maybe point out, I maybe should have done before. This here is made by this company AutoData. So they make scopes, and they make a whole load of stuff, and sensor simulators and things like that. So I bought that off them. I have a couple of other wee gadgets I think they do. Not overly expensive. I think that was about 60 quid or something. Now you could, I know a lot of guys have made one, but that one's pretty well manufactured. But I'll just draw your attention to, they have a website with loads of information on it, autodata.com, and there's where I got all those specs for the electromagnetic, well they're calling it electromagnetic, that's the solenoid. The solenoid injector, so that's that one there. It's describing and principle of operation of the electromagnetic injector, which is electromagnetic solenoid, and it shows you the non-injection phase, injection phase, end of injection phase, and there's the resistance spec on it there, 0.4 and 0.8 ohms. So set oscilloscope to 100 volts. And yeah, there's descriptions there of all those components of mode of operation. So anyway, moving swiftly on. Right, just to let you see what I've set up, we'll have that solenoid type injector in the bench. It's just off the top of your screen. We'll have the wee first look pressure sensor, and I've just stuffed it onto the bottom of the injector there, like that. So what we're going to do then is we've got our pulse width modulator over here. So we have 12 volts going into it, and we have a signal going out to it, and we'll have connected on channel 1 on the mix sig there. Channel 1 is the pulse width modulator, just to see that it's working. And then we'll have this wee pulse sensor, but it's set very, very low. So at the minute it's going mad, just me moving about at it. If I tap it, it spikes like crazy. So I'll just show you that. Whenever you set that down very, very low, it'll go crazy. But what it's going to do, it's actually listening for the solenoid. So we'll just bring it back up again. Okay, blue channel here is the first look sensor. Yellow channel 1 there, is the pulse width modulator. So let me turn that around for you so you can see me turning it. So you'll probably hear this solenoid. Anyway, but the first look sensor is picking this up by noise. So there we go. So I'll just take this microphone off and let you hear it. So that's a solenoid actuating there, and the first look sensor is seeing it, or not seeing it, but hearing it. And let me see, I'll just do another wee experiment. Right, just to show you how sensitive this first look is, I'm going to take the pipe off, and you can see the blue one there going mental at the minute, and that's purely because I have it in my hand, and it's hearing that through air. So let me see if it turn it off. Okay, and that's me just rubbing my finger. I'm not even tapping it. If I tap it, it's really so. If that down at 5 millivolts, the blue one there at 5 millivolts, which is the first look sensor. So there's how sensitive it is. It's picking up me talking. So if we could even put it up against it like that and hold it sort of steady. Actuate the So point of this demonstration is you could use this first look sensor for to see if anything's actuating, if solenoid is actuating. So you just hold it up against it, just hold the pipe up against it. You don't even need to put anything in that. What you could maybe do is stick a bolt on it. Yeah, just stick a bolt on it and hold it up against it like that if you want. But what I've noticed, well, certainly with this, because I have that set down so low, and as I say, you can just brush the top of that pipe and it's picking it all up. That's how sensitive it is. If I just hold the pipe on there and she's just exploded. So, got that on camera too. Brilliant. So that'll stay in. So that was her full welt there, and it's pretty warm. So there we go. Tested to destruction. Great stuff. Right, we'll move on to these Piezo ones, and I'll show you a bit more of that. Right, I'm just gonna kill this injector here before it goes in the bin. I'm going to put full 12 volts into it. So here we go. Boom. Lovely. I think we just killed that. So don't try this at home. Right, so we're moving these on to these Piezo ones, and these are a wee bit more interesting. So if you watched my previous video, I went into Piezo electric a wee bit and sort of described how it worked and the theory of operation. So these are Piezo injectors. So this Siemens one or Continental. It's the same thing. Siemens, I think, bought out Continental. But so if we screw the piezo, what they call the piezo stack off it, that's it there. So there's a bunch of those piezo stacked on top of each other, and they actually move then. So whenever it gets a pulse, that pushes that out and actuates that down there. So, and that other wee thing in there, incidentally, say a wee hexagonal thing, that's the calibration shim. So whenever the guys are setting these up on the bench, you get different thicknesses of them and stick them in there. So that's why you can't really set these up yourself or swap things about. So that's to make up very differences in the tolerances in these things. So that's the piezo stack in that one. These Denso ones, the piezo stack is a wee bit more interesting. That's it there. That's a pretty massive thing. So screw that out. So as you can see, I've loosened all these off, and that one there. So I'm going to measure all these out and see if there's any vast differences in them. We're not really interested in these two bodies now. There's not really much we can do with them. But it's these piezos is what we're interested in for our testing. Okay. Right, so that's measuring out at 15 kilograms. So that's not much good. It should be 10 times that, even more than that. But these ones here, I don't know the spec of these. If somebody does, by all means, stick it in the comments. But these are measuring very high indeed, if it's going to sell. So it's over a meg, so a million ohms. So you'd think that was open circuit, wouldn't you? So we'll do this other one. And it's the same. So unless the two of them have failed identically, or that's correct, I'm not sure. But that's over a million ohms on those Denso ones. So if somebody knows the specs of those, what that's supposed to be, by all means, give us a shout. But that's not the end of our experimentation. We're gonna try and see if they can get these things to do anything. So maybe do this one here first of all. So these things work at a couple of 100 volts. So we need something that can output a couple of 100 volts. Our wee PWM controller can't do that. My 12 volt battery at my feet can't do that. But I have an insulation resistance tester, and there's it there. It's the wee Uni-T brand there that sell these wee boys here, and I have a few meters made by these guys. Pretty cheap, does the job, occasional use, not bad, goes down to 100 volts, 100, 250, 500. So not much to it. It just you just select it for the voltage, press the button, and it puts that voltage out of these two terminals. That in there is AC voltage, just that ACV there is AC voltage, so the leads go into there and measures AC. So it's an AC meter as well. So I think you can get a higher up one than that. Can do a few more functions, but I just wanted something that could output a bit of voltage for doing wee things like this. I think that was about 30 quid, brand new. So comes in a wee carrying case. Anyway, we'll get the camera moved here to show you what I'm going to do now. That's our wee piezo in the vise, and we'll have it on a dial gauge. And this is to see if we can get any movement out of this. See if we can get this crystal or piezo stack to actually move. So if this set in 100 volts, now you'll probably hear this buzzing here, because there's not enough resistance in this, so it's seeing this as nearly a short. But anyway, the buzzing out of this is the way these work is it's a discharge capacitor, so that's what the buzzing is. So we'll see if there's any movement. That's 100 volts, and there's no movement. We're watching the gauge here. Now it will be very little, if anything. Oh, it's starting to move there. So I'll maybe zoom you in a wee bit on the gauge, because I don't think you need to watch me doing that. Right, 250 volts, that's it. Nothing. Okay. 500 volts. Nothing. Thought I would have got something there. Gonna stick it up to 1,000. Here we go. Not a thing. Right, so there's no movement whatsoever out of that piezo stack. But as we saw in the previous video, the piezos work in two directions. So you put voltage into them and they move, and similarly if you hit on them or bang on them, then you get a voltage output. Now this one here doesn't work as we saw, but our mixing here is it can go down to millivolts here. So I'm going to see, we'll just have it on 1 volt there, 500 milliseconds. Let's get that out of the way. That thing didn't do anything for us. So I'm just going to give this a wee tap, just as I did before. And as you can see, there is something there. So I'm just going to knock that down. 200 millivolt scale, so we're in millivolts here. And there we are. So there is a piezo in it after all. Down to 100 millivolts. And let's get it a bit bigger. 50 millivolts scale. 20 millivolt scale. And there you go. So it's not completely dead, but it may as well be. So that's the piezo not working in one direction, but not working in the direction you want it to work in. So anyway, we'll give these Densos a bit of a run here, see what happens with them. Okay, so that's the Denso piezo stack in the vise, and it's connected to the insulation resistance tester, the UNT. So we're going to give it a go here, and you'll hear the buzzing of the UNT here and beeping and stuff. And we're watching the dial gauge to see if there's any movement. So that's it at 100 volts. We're going to hold it a wee while and nothing much happening. So that's the end of the test. So we'll just zoom in on the dial gauge here, just to see. It's got a wee bit grainy there, but that'll do. Going up at 250 volts. We're going to shove into it here now. And the beeping's UNT. It's just seeing continuity. So it's outputting 270 volts there, according to the screen. So we're going to up at the 500 volt scale. I'm going to give it another go. Oh. And our crystal is doing something. That's at 500 volts. And we're just going to go mad now. I'm going to stick it up. 1000 volts go through this. Just pulled it back down to 500 there. give a restamp. Okay. Just to show you what's going on there. So I'm just keeping it at the 500 volts because all these leads are all rated at 600 volts, so I don't really want to do 1000 volts. So I think that's enough of that. I might put the mix egg on it now and see if there's any output from tapping it. Okay. So our Piezo stack is in the vase. We got it to move a wee bit by sticking hundreds of volts into it. But what I've noticed is this end here is sort of flexible. So, and if that's maybe the stack there. So anyway, if I press, and I have to press on that, and we can't do the tapping thing, but there's a significant waveform from pressing that or even moving that about there, you know. So we can go down the range here. And get a bit of it by tapping it. And they go really, really down. So we are getting a voltage by agitating it quite a bit by moving it. By moving that about. So there we go. That's a bit of mucking about with injectors. A wee bit more on these Piezo stacks that we hear people talking about in these injectors. So that's one type there. I think that's just this. I think that there's just a stack there. I'm not entirely sure. Again, if somebody knows more about it than me, they're more than welcome to comment in the comments. But this has just been a bit of messing about. I think we've destroyed one, probably destroyed most of them actually. So they weren't working to start with. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks very much for watching as ever, and all the best, and bye bye.